You think you're free because you can choose between two brands of cereal at the supermarket. But here's the truth nobody wants to tell you. That choice, that entire life you're living, was designed in a boardroom 70 years ago by men who understood one simple fact. A person who feels normal will never ask dangerous questions. And a person who never asks dangerous questions will work until they die. Let me paint you a picture. It's Monday morning, 6:30 a.m. The alarm screams. You drag yourself out of bed, shower, dress in clothes that cost half your paycheck because that's what people wear to look professional. You sit in traffic for an hour, burning fuel you can't afford, to reach a building where you'll spend 8 hours doing work that doesn't matter to you for people who don't know your name. You do this for 40 years. Then they give you a gold watch and a sheet cake, and you realize you traded your entire existence for the privilege of being normal, for fitting in, for not making waves. This is the trap. And it's not an accident. See, what most people don't understand is that being normal is a recent invention. Your great-great-grandfather didn't worry about being normal. He worried about survival, about keeping his family fed, about whether the crop would fail or the winter would be too harsh. His life was hard, brutal even, but it was his. He made things with his hands. He saw the direct result of his labor. When he was tired, it was because he had built something, grown something, created something tangible. There was a connection between effort and outcome that made sense to the animal brain we all carry around in our skulls. But then something changed, something deliberate. And to understand what happened, we need to go back to a specific moment in history, back to the ashes of the worst economic disaster the modern world had ever seen. It's 1929. October. The stock market doesn't just fall. It evaporates. Fortunes disappear in hours. Grown men throw themselves from windows because the number in their bank account has become a zero. This is the Great Depression, and it breaks something fundamental in the American psyche. For the next decade, people are terrified. They stop spending. They hoard every penny. They remember what hunger feels like, what uncertainty tastes like, and they never want to experience it again. Now, you might think this would create a generation of careful, frugal people who lived below their means and valued security above all else, and you'd be right. That's exactly what happened. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the trap gets built. It's 1945. The war ends. American factories have been running at full capacity for 4 years, building tanks, planes, weapons. The industrial machine is massive, efficient, unstoppable. But suddenly, there's no enemy to fight, no war to fuel. These factories need to keep running, because if they shut down, the economy collapses. The men come home from Europe and the Pacific, millions of them. They need jobs. The women who kept the factories running during the war are told to go back home, back to the kitchen. The entire economic system is holding its breath, waiting to see if the depression will return. And that's when someone asks the most important question of the 20th century. How do we keep the machine running? How do we make sure people keep buying, keep consuming, keep working forever? The answer comes from an unexpected place. From the nephew of Sigmund Freud, a man named Edward Bernays. Now, Bernays isn't a household name, but he should be. Because Bernays understood something that changed everything. He understood that you can't just sell people things they need. Eventually, they have enough. The Depression generation proved that. They would save, reuse, make do with less. That kind of thinking is poison to an economy built on perpetual growth. No, Bernays realized you had to sell people things they didn't need. You had to create desire where none existed. You had to make people feel incomplete, inadequate, abnormal, unless they bought your product. Bernays called it public relations, but it was really psychological warfare aimed at the civilian population of the United States. Here's an example. In the 1920s, only men smoked cigarettes in public. It was considered vulgar for women, bad for business, obviously. Half the population isn't buying your product. So Bernays stages a protest. He hires young, attractive women to march in the Easter parade in New York City, smoking cigarettes. He tips off the newspapers, tells them these are suffragettes, feminists, lighting torches of freedom. It's theater, it's manipulation, but it works. Within a decade, women smoking becomes normalized. The tobacco companies double their market. But that's just the beginning. Bernays works for everyone. For corporations selling soap, cars, bacon, light bulbs. He helps overthrow governments in Central America on behalf of fruit companies. He understands that if you can control how people think, you can control what they buy. And if you can control what they buy, you control their entire lives. And this is where the concept of normal gets weaponized. See, the Depression generation knew how to live with less. They grew victory gardens. They repaired their clothes. They saved string and aluminum foil. They were suspicious of debt, skeptical of advertising, resistant to the idea that they needed new things to be happy. This was a problem, a massive problem, because the factories needed consumers, not savers. The economy needed people to want, to crave, to feel a gnawing emptiness that could only be filled by purchasing. So they built the suburbs. And I don't mean they just constructed houses. I mean they engineered an entire lifestyle, an entire vision of what normal should look like. It's the 1950s now. The GI Bill makes mortgages cheap. The government builds highways, sprawling arteries that connect cities to empty land. Developers buy that land for nothing and build thousands of identical houses. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky, white picket fences, 2-car garages, and they don't just sell you the house. They sell you the dream, the image, the idea that this is what success looks like. This is what normal looks like. You get married young, early 20s. You buy the house, the car, the washing machine, the television, the refrigerator, the lawnmower. You fill the house with furniture, the closets with clothes, the garage with tools you'll use once. You have 2.5 children. You join the PTA. You go to church on Sunday. You work at the same company for 30 years. This is the American dream. This is normal. But here's what they don't tell you. Normal is expensive, incredibly expensive. That house requires a mortgage, 30 years of monthly payments. The cars require loans. The appliances require credit. And suddenly, you're not working because you want to. You're working because you have to. Because if you stop, you lose the house, the car, the image, the proof that you are normal. And that's the trap snapping shut. Because once you're in debt, once you've committed to the mortgage and the car payments and the credit cards, you can't leave. You can't take risks. You can't quit the job you hate, pursue the thing you love, move to the place that makes you happy. You're chained to the system. And the beautiful part, from the system's perspective, is that you did it to yourself. Nobody forced you. You chose the house. You chose the car. You chose normal. The advertising makes sure you keep choosing it. Every commercial, every magazine, every television show reinforces the same message. Buy this and you'll be happy. Buy this and you'll be loved. Buy this and you'll finally be enough. The products change, the message doesn't. And it works because it taps into something deep in the human brain, the need to belong, the fear of being different, the terror of being left behind. Think about how this plays out in real life. You're young. You get your first real job. Suddenly you're making money, real money, more than you ever had as a kid. And what do? You upgrade. better apartment, better car, better clothes, because that's what people do at your level. That's what normal looks like for someone with your job, your salary, your status. Then you get a raise. And instead of saving it, instead of building freedom, you upgrade again. Bigger apartment, nicer car. You move into a neighborhood where the houses cost more, the restaurants charge more, the lifestyle demands more. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's a treadmill that never stops. Your income goes up. Your expenses go up faster. You're making more than you ever dreamed, but you have less freedom than when you were broke, because now you have obligations. The mortgage on the house you had to buy because everyone at your level has a house. The payments on the car you had to lease because showing up to the office in a beat-up sedan doesn't look professional. The private school tuition because the public schools in the good neighborhood aren't good enough. The vacation you have to take because your colleagues are taking vacations and you need to post the photos on social media to prove you're living the life. Every step up the ladder makes the trap tighter. And the cruelest part is that the people who built this system convinced you that this is freedom, that having choices between 40 types of yogurt at the grocery store is liberty, that customizing your phone case is self-expression. That freedom means the ability to buy whatever you want, not the ability to do whatever you want. Let me tell you what real freedom looks like. Real freedom is waking up and not caring what time it is. It's doing work that matters to you, not work that impresses other people. It's living in a place you love, even if it's small, even if it's not prestigious. It's having enough money that you don't think about money. Not because you're rich, but because you need so little that your needs are covered. Real freedom is being weird, being different, being abnormal, and not caring who judges you for it. But the system can't allow that. Because if too many people wake up, if too many people realize that normal is a trap, the whole thing falls apart. The economy is built on your dissatisfaction, on your fear, on your desperate need to keep up with people you don't even like. If you stop buying things you don't need, the machine grinds to a halt. The corporations lose profits. The banks lose interest payments. The whole parasitic structure that's been built on your back collapses. That's why they fight so hard to keep you asleep. The advertising gets more sophisticated. The social pressure gets more intense. The algorithms on your phone learn exactly what makes you insecure, exactly what makes you want, and they feed you an endless stream of images designed to make you feel inadequate. Look at what everyone else has. Look at what you're missing. Look at how far behind you've fallen. Better work harder. Better buy faster. Better stay normal. And if you try to escape, they have a word for you. They call you lazy, irresponsible, a failure. Because in this system, the only virtue is productivity. The only measure of worth is economic output. If you're not grinding, hustling, climbing the ladder, you're worthless. It doesn't matter if you're happy. It doesn't matter if you're healthy. It doesn't matter if you're creating art or building community or living a life of quiet meaning. If you're not producing value for someone else, you're a drain on society. This is why the 40-hour work week persists even though productivity has increased tenfold since the 1950s. We could all work 20 hours a week and maintain the same standard of living, but that would give you time. Time to think, time to question, time to realize that you're trading your finite existence for numbers in a bank account that you'll never get to enjoy because you're too busy working to have a life. The system needs you tired. It needs you stressed. It needs you so exhausted when you get home that all you can do is collapse on the couch and watch television, where more advertisements will remind you of everything you don't have, everything you need to buy, everything required to be normal. Here's the thing about traps, though. Once you see them, they lose their power. The first step to escaping is recognizing that you're caught, and you are caught. Unless you're one of the very few who've already broken free, you're in the trap right now. The question is whether you're willing to do what it takes to get out. Getting out requires sacrifice. Not the sacrifice the system demands, where you give up your time and energy and health. Different sacrifice. You have to sacrifice the image, the status, the approval of people who don't matter. You have to be willing to be abnormal. And that's terrifying, because we're social creatures. We're wired to fit in, to belong, to avoid rejection. Going against the grain feels like death to the primitive part of our brain. But here's what happens when you do it anyway. You cut your expenses to the bone. You move somewhere cheaper, even if it's not impressive. You sell the car and take the bus. You stop buying clothes to impress people at a job you hate. You quit the job. Maybe you take something easier, something that pays less but demands less of your soul. Or maybe you start building something of your own, something small at first, something that might fail, but at least it's yours. Your friends think you've lost your mind. Your family worries. Everyone asks what happened, why you're throwing away everything you worked for. And you can't explain it in a way that makes sense to them, because they're still in the trap. They still believe that normal is the goal. They can't see the bars of the cage because they've been there so long the cage feels like home. But you keep going. You live on less, way less than you thought possible. And something strange happens. The fear starts to fade. Because you realize that the catastrophe you were always afraid of, the disaster that would happen if you stopped playing the game, it doesn't come. You're fine. More than fine. You have time now. Time to sleep. Time to read. Time to walk in the park in the middle of the afternoon on a Wednesday, while everyone else is stuck in a fluorescent-lit office pretending to care about the quarterly projections. You start to notice things you never saw before. The way light looks at different times of day. The rhythm of the seasons. The taste of food when you actually have time to cook it. You reconnect with old interests. Things you loved before the system convinced you that hobbies were childish, and the only valid use of time was productivity. You make things with your hands. You have conversations that last hours. You help your neighbors. You become part of a community instead of just a consumer in a market. And here's the most radical thing. You stop being afraid, because the system's power over you comes from fear. Fear of being left behind. Fear of not having enough. Fear of being judged. But when you opt out, when you choose abnormal, the system can't threaten you anymore. What are they going to do? Fire you? You already quit. Take away your status? You already gave it up. Make fun of you? You stopped caring what they think. This is the escape. Not winning the lottery. Not getting rich. Not achieving some fantasy version of success where you have everything the system promises without any of the costs. The escape is realizing that you never needed any of it in the first place. That normal was always a lie. That the cage was always unlocked. You just had to be brave enough to open it. Now, I'm not saying everyone should quit their job and live in a van. I'm not preaching some romanticized version of poverty. What I'm saying is that the definition of success you've been sold, the vision of normal you've been chasing, it was designed by people who profit from your compliance. And maybe, just maybe, you should ask yourself what you actually want. Not what you're supposed to want. Not what would look good on social media, but what would make you, the person reading this right now, actually happy. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know. You don't need that much. Not really. You need food, shelter, health, community, purpose. That's about it. Everything else is just noise. Just marketing. Just the endless machine of capitalism convincing you that the hole inside can be filled with products. But it can't. It never could. The hole is there because you're living someone else's life. Because you're chasing someone else's dream. Because you're trying to be normal in a world where normal was invented to keep you compliant. So what do? You start small. You question everything, every purchase, every commitment, every obligation. You ask yourself, is this mine or is this theirs? Did I choose this, or was I programmed to choose it? You start cutting away the excess, not because you have to, but because you want to see what's left when all the performance is gone. And what's left, if you're brave enough to keep going, is you, the real you, not the employee, not the consumer, not the role you play to maintain the image of normal. Just you. Weird, flawed, free. And that person, that strange, abnormal creature you've been hiding your whole life, that's who you were supposed to be all along. Being normal is a trap, but the door is open. The only question is whether you're ready to walk through it.